areas of gray do not exist for the debate participants. You have been privileged this evening to hear from two groups of people with fundamental oppositional views of how to best proceed with the Stand Your Ground legislation. On one side, the preference appears to desire punishment for people who are protecting their families. On the other side, the desire is to grant people the legal authority to protect themselves and their families. And that is a key distinction in ideology. Our opponents would have you believe that the just approach for the government is to criminalize the behavior of people like the Georgia businessman we just heard about. Remember, he is the father that fulfilled his legal duty to protect his children. Do you agree this man is a criminal? By what standard do we judge the actions of individuals protecting themselves or their families? By a criminal standard? No. That would surely impose an unfair burden, one that requires parents to ignore the dangers that their children face. Framing Stand Your Ground and its connection and relevance as an extension of the Castle Doctrine helps us to understand the methodology behind its creation. Just as courts decided that a man's home is his castle, that same principle ought to apply when referencing a man's person. If my home is my castle, what is my body? Thankfully, the court's actions have long demonstrated an appreciation for human life. But due to high-profile cases skewing public perception, Stand Your Ground laws are often associated with a devaluing of human life. This reaction from the media is wrong because everyone benefits from Stand Your Ground. This country's foundational ideology is centered on the idea of freedom. Both the freedoms expressly written into the U.S. Constitution and those implied by the Constitution. We enjoy the freedom to practice the religion of our choosing, the freedom to vote, the freedom to attend school, and many more. If all of these freedoms exist for us to take advantage of, why do our opponents seek to deny the most basic of human freedoms? The freedom to preserve life. An ideal so fundamental to the core of human existence that Enlightenment thinker Thomas Hobbes viewed self-preservation as the overarching law of nature. It was the law. Stand Your Ground, though minutely flawed, was the right course of action for the legislatures that adopted it. Why? Because a problem existed. A problem of home invasion, of mugging, random acts of violence. Hardened, violent offenders of the law had become emboldened and arguably incentivized by the lack of deterrence. People who oppose Stand Your Ground would propose as an alternative solution for this law, no law at all. Is that how we hope to reconcile and resolve our issues as a society? We push them aside, or we forget them, or worse, we ignore them? If so, that's no society at all. We are better than that. And it is the responsibility of government to protect its citizenry. By adopting these laws, that is precisely what was accomplished. As previously admitted, Stand Your Ground is slightly flawed. But that is no excuse for abolishing these laws. No. If anything, that should motivate us to expedite the improvement of these laws. In quick response to a comment that Ms. Morgan made earlier, although anecdotally the popcorn movie situation is entertaining, it doesn't correlate to Stand Your Ground. Stand Your Ground applies when individuals have an unlawful attacker upon them. Now, I'd like to thank all of you for coming and joining us this evening because this is an important discussion. And admittedly, both teams share the same goal. goal is simple. Our goal is to preserve life. With that in mind, I believe both teams are tasked with a great responsibility to each other and to all of you in the audience. For that reason, it is critical that upon exiting this room, you can answer this final question in the affirmative. Do we have a right, as free citizens, to protect ourselves from harm? If so, stand your ground must stand as good law.